Welcome your hosts, Caddy Frank and Aaron Fitzgerald, as they lead discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Well, good day, good day, good day. Here we are on a lovely day in Minnesota, somewhere in the fall of some kind. I've got a lovely human across the mic from me. Say hello, whoever you are.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And what's your name?
My name's Darnell Cox.
This is Darnell Cox, and we're going to hear more about him. But first, I'm going to thank our special generous donors and funders, Patrick Amy Butler Foundation, Otto Bremer Trust, the Sauer Family Foundation, the Hardenberger Foundation. Sorry, I mispronounced that. Along with many other foundations, corporate and individual contributors to this podcast in front of us. So Darnell came in a little bit on the, what am I doing, Caddy? And I said, Darnell, it's a little bit of a surprise because I think when we've prepped people, they're like, oh, gosh, what do I say? How do I say it? What am I supposed to say? So I gave him just like a couple of tidbits. So, again, my name is Caddy Frank. I'm from Minnesota Recovery Connection, a woman in long-term recovery. So, Darnell, who are you?
I am the Director of Operations at Minnesota Recovery Connection. I actually started at MRC as a volunteer about 2 Januaries ago. Stopped in for some community service hours, and I fell in love with the organization. I fell in love with the work, CPRS work, giving back to the community, and I found my home in this place. And I love our mission. I love what we're trying to do.
What is it about our mission that sort of speaks to your heart?
Just giving individuals the voice and saying, okay, walking alongside you, where do you want to go with your recovery? Because everyone's recovery is different, and everybody's recovery is their own journey. So we're not trying to push an agenda. We're saying, what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. That's great. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Let's make it happen. I like that. So one of the things you talked about initially is you said you came in doing community service. There's a lot of people that listen to this show, and they're like, what does that mean? And why did he come in? So if you're comfortable, tell us, what was your community service and what did you have to, I call burn off, in our world?
Yeah. So I have some justice involvement in my background, quite a bit, as a matter of fact. And so something called a departure from the guidelines with the court system. So it means that you do not go to prison. Instead, they're going to give you probation. Part of my deal was 80 hours of community service and then 20 a year going forward. That I have to be involved in the community, to give back and do the community service hours. So I had a bunch to do, and I needed to find a place to do it. And I heard about the MRC, and it just fell into place. And that's what I love about recovery. It's like you do the next right thing, and it's like a snowball, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And the next thing you know, like I would have never thought I would be sitting here, caught some caddy, doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Any of it. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things that you've told me, and that is, when we've talked about how you've moved along on this journey with Minnesota Recovery Connection, is that you're grateful, you're thankful, but we've been actually able to fill a little bit of a void that was lacking in your story, right? We've been able to show up and sort of say, who are you, Darnell? Unfold in front of us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've been able to see some incredible growth that's taken place. So when we're talking about individuals that have a justice-involved background and are on their recovery journey, so if you want to just give us a snapshot of maybe what was the beginning of your either use and recovery, and then where did the crossroad of the justice involved come in? What's the beginning of your story so people can get an idea? Because I think when we're talking about recovery and we've got justice involved backgrounds, we think sometimes people are just sort of they're just like, what does that all mean? Where does it intersect? So where did it intersect maybe from a younger person, or where did the justice involved and the substance use kind of come into play together?
Yeah, so my my drug of choice was methamphetamine, and about the time when I was 20 is when that really kicked off, and my criminality and my drug use really just went hand in hand. I got involved in a lot of things like burglaries, theft, stuff like that. By the time I was 22, so I went from no felonies at 18, obviously, to by the time I was 22, I was on my way to prison for the first time with 7 felonies on my record. So it escalated really quickly.
And my understanding, because this isn't a journey that I've been on, and that is, so you're addicted to methamphetamine and you got to find a way to pay for it. And so you begin to do things that the justice system is not very fond of.
Yeah, and there's also there's an aspect of a lifestyle where like that's what people did. The people that I hung around with in the meth community, that's what we did. We stole stuff and we rode around all night and did what we wanted, and it was a lifestyle that I grew accustomed to, just being introduced to it through family members and friends of family and that type of thing.
So if I just with that last statement that you said, so what was your growing up like? What was that journey in growing up? What kind of household, or was there justice impact people that you were either parents or family members? What did that look like?
Oh yeah, for sure. My mom had some substance use issues growing up, so it kind of, I don't know how to kind of put this. So at one point when I was about 9, she was gone for a while in her use of methamphetamine as well. So me and my brother went and lived with our grandma. My grandma, God bless her soul, she was the greatest. She ran a foster home, so me and my brother were almost like a unofficial foster kids, one of her last ones, yeah. So she actually adopted my uncle Andrew, which he's like 5 years older than me, so he's more like an older brother.
Okay.
He was deeply involved in the drug use in that world, and that's kind of where I found the group of people I hung out with. So,
you sort of learned behavior based on what was around you?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you live with grandma, but you kind of had this individual that sort of drew you into the wrong path. I'm using big air quotes there, the wrong path. Was that accurate?
Yeah, well, it's just it was learned behavior. Also with my mom and her drug use as well, so I seen that. It was growing up. It was normal, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I actually committed a burglary. I was in sophomore year, and I was with my uncle, and it was
wow.
It was a whole
thing.
It was a whole thing, but it was like, all right, we're gonna do it because we felt wronged by somebody, and this is what we do,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like payback.
Yeah. At that instance, that's what it was. The first
really?
time I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think part of the reason why I ask these questions, and I don't want you to make anybody feel uncomfortable, but sometimes people in a way, you don't know another way of living because it's literally surrounds you. Would that be somewhat accurate, like between the substance use that your mom struggled with, right? Yeah. And then your an uncle or like brother, you don't know any better. You don't know what you don't know to do things different. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and it becomes the norm. It becomes the norm. Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They come from a privileged life, or they come from a life where they would not anticipate a relative or a child or a neighbor to live this lifestyle. But either you get drawn into it because they're people that you trust or that you know, or it's the only thing you know. And I think one of the things that we try to do on this show is to talk about the fact that I don't think you were born and grew up to be a person who is like, you know what, I think I'm going to do some criminal activity and I'm going to be a drug addict. I don't think that was your natural plan. No. But I think people think that once you get into that lifestyle, that's all that you were. I think we're born like these clean, beautiful, wonderful humans, but because of circumstances around us, we get influenced, we get taught something, and then all of a sudden it's like you said, that's your normal. And then you're just like, okay, so what else do I do?
Yeah, and a lot of it too is finding that acceptance. Like I found a lot of acceptance in that world where, I'd have nice things and everybody would want me around and they'd be like, oh, like wow, you're doing good. So it seemed like I was doing the right thing and I was doing good and everybody liked it. So it's, those endorphins kick in, the dopamine saying, this is great. I'm living my best life, but it's just, you just don't know because that's what you're surrounded by.
And there's recognizing that consequence isn't there. But I think you said something, thank you, Darnell, so important. That is, people liked you when you had the stuff that you had. Yeah. And that makes us feel better. And then when we feel better, like you said, those endorphins go. And then maybe, you're still dealing with a substance use disorder at the time, too. So you're getting high as well as you're getting all these good feelings from people around you. And it just becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And how do you change that? Was it the justice involvement that kind of so now we went from living a lifestyle, getting yourself in trouble by age 22, kind of big trouble. So where did that go from there?
Well, from there, like I said, I was headed to prison for my first time at 22. That's the first time I went to treatment, actually, was in prison at Lionel Lakes at Triad.
Okay.
And that's kind of my first time I actually learned about what recovery was, just anything like that. And it was just a little tidbit. And
a little teaser for you.
Yeah. So then getting released, 2014, I guess it was, 2014, 2015. I started doing pretty good for a while, but I fell right back into it. And looking back on it, it really was like, those people, places, and things. What
right.
they say. Yeah, right back to the same people, the same places, same things, same life.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Back to that revolving door. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Lionel Lakes, because we've done a training at Lionel Lakes for peer recovery specialists for the men who are in that particular facility, thanks to a lovely grant that we have with the Department of Corrections. And it's so interesting because if people don't know this out in the bigger world, the justice system is probably one of the biggest treatment centers there are in the world, not for formalized training, but a lot of people get sober in prison because theoretically they don't have access to drugs. But we know that that's a big problem that has been encountering in all of the justice system all around the country. But it's so interesting when you say that was your first introduction to recovery, because out in the streets, did anybody ever talk about wanting to get clean?
No. And for me, it's always been a hard reset for my life, getting locked up. It's what I often found out, that like when I'm at my worst, when I do get locked up, that's when I can get away from it and get my head right and kind of build from there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that Lionel wasn't the first time around that you were going to find some success, it sounds like.
No. And there's been a couple different bouts, but as of recently, my last the last involvement in recovery that I found was when I went to RS Eden, and that's when it really kicked off for me.
When was that?
So that would have been August of 2022. So my recovery date is July 8th of 2022. That's when I got arrested for the last time, and kind of put me on that trajectory to where I am right now.
Right. So had to go back to some old habits, go back to some old friends, had to go back to some old behaviors, because one of the things I think people struggle with in both their own substance use disorder and the people that love us, and that is that old behavior, that is a hard wire, isn't it? It's a hard wire. Like, how do I change this? Because that's comfortable. That place where I'm doing my substances, where I'm doing activities, logically I know I shouldn't, I use in air quotes again, but I know what to expect, right? You know what's going to come of it.
Yeah.
You're going to be accepted. You're going to have the things that you want. People are going to like you. You can still get high. You can still live that life. And I think the thing that's most important about people who are trying to help people who are trying to get away from substance use disorder is that trying to break away from that real comfortable track, it ain't easy.
No, it's not.
It's not easy because you know what to expect. And when we're talking about recovery, it's the unknown. It's that space where if I make a change, then I've got to change. How do I change? Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that it's embracing that uncomfortability of making that change. And a big part of it for me was finding that new identity as a person. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a different person, but I evolved to where I am today, where I'm no longer living that lifestyle, I found my new identity as a father and as a man in recovery and as a support person for others.
Wow. We're going to take a break in about a minute or so, and I'm going to ask you to elaborate on that. But I think what you said is so important for people to understand, and that is when we do find our recovery, we really do. I know I did this back in the day. I was going to my AA meetings, and I remembered when I walked into an AA meeting, I could take off my cloak because when I was out on the street, I kind of had like this protective shell that I had on because it's like, can I identify as somebody who was an alcoholic at the time, or who do I have to pretend to be? Then I would go into my AA meetings and I would take off my cloak and I could be real present. But then we have to make that transition when we go into recovery and say, I'm going to take off that cloak forever. So we're going to take a break real quickly here and come back. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution, sponsored by Minnesota Recovery Connection. See you in a couple of seconds. Welcome back to Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution. I am here with who?
Darnell Cox.
There he is, Darnell Cox, and I'm Kathy Frank. When we walked away for a break, Darnell was talking about he had to make like a real life transition from sort of changing the way he thought about maybe who he was, still inside there, but who you've become. And what was that new road that you had to journey onto? What did that look like? How did you have to change your brain space?
Well, a lot of it was just finding my new identity in recovering as a father. So growing up, my dad was not there at all. I kind of mentioned earlier, my mom, she had her own kind of struggle she was going through, so she wasn't present the entire time. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of abandonment issues growing up. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just realized at one point that I was putting my kids through the same thing. That's when it really like kicked in for me and said, I need to do something different.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? I mean, that thing that happens to us when we're young kids, if we don't want to do it, it still happens. So you sort of made that decision that, I gotta do better on this next generation. What did that look like? How did you step back into their lives?
Well, I'll go back to my last reuse to kind of just tell you how this kind of played out. So I was doing pretty well. Me and Bree, the mother of my kids, we were doing pretty well. We were both sober. I wouldn't say in recovery. Mm-hmm. That was looking back. That was our main downfall. So I was building houses. I got a job framing houses, and I just got out of treatment at Kinnick Falls. So
okay.
I ended up getting a townhouse in Woodbury. We had the kids back, and it was right before COVID, so we had a bunch of COVID relief money and taxes back. And from the outside looking in, it looked good, right?
Yeah, you had everything you needed at that point, didn't you?
It looked that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the inside, though, we were lonely in our own environment. We didn't have any. We weren't involved in the recovery community. We didn't have friends. I would go to work, come home, sawdusty and tired, and lay around, and it just wasn't fulfilling in lifestyle. And we both kind of remembered back to the times when we were in our addiction, and we had things, we had people, it was exciting, and all the money in place we thought we could use successfully. Mm-hmm. It de-escalated really quickly. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah.
Because you went back into that comfortable place. You knew what to expect. You were trying to live a sober life, like you said, but then that wasn't as fulfilling. And COVID hitting would have been just another layer on top to just that isolation. Yeah. So it de-escalated to what? To
the kids living back with their grandparents. We lost the house in Woodbury, and me and Bree were both living in our vehicles, and I was on the run again, fully prepared to say, when they catch me, I'm going back to prison.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So literally homeless, living in a vehicle, trying to survive, and you were using at that time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the story continues.
And then the story continues to on July 7th of 2022, on my way down to TI Casino, I got arrested. And Treasure Island Casino. Yeah.
Okay.
I was on my way down there and I got arrested. Went through the whole fake name to the cops, and they figured it out. And I was sitting in jail, and I found myself in Dakota County Jail. That's where Hastings is at. And they sent me back to Washington County. That's where my warrants were, and I was already on 2 departures. So my probation officer was not happy with me.
Not happy with you?
Not at all.
Not at all. Like, Darnell, what are you doing coming back to me? I don't want to see you.
Well, she was recommending execution, sending me to prison,
okay.
And I wouldn't have seen the judge. And this was actually on my birthday, so it was kind of crazy. Yeah, July 18th, I went to go see my probation violation judge. And he said, Darnell, you look tired and you beat up. Are you finally ready to make a change? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'm gonna give you one last shot to go to treatment again, because I've already been to treatment.
You tried that one out a couple times.
Yeah,
Let me ask you a question real quick. So when you see that judge and they see that, and this person's seen you before?
Yes.
Okay, and so they're looking at you and they're seeing this tall, probably drawn out, lovely human who's just made another step, but he saw something in you. What do you think he saw?
I think big part of it was when I do well, I do well.
Okay.
And then once I fall off hard.
Okay.
So he's seen me doing well. Again, I was on 2 departures, so I was doing really well in order to get those departures. They're like, he's really succeeded. And then I just do a swan dive into the depths, and then it's like, and then I disappear, and then they catch me. It's like, let's try this again. So
okay, so I just want to point out that I think it's so interesting that even these people that can put down harsh rules and harsh expectations on people, they can actually see the light in somebody too. And I think that's one of the things that we try to help people see that are trying to achieve their recovery, and that is not everybody is against them. Right? Mm-hmm. It might be a little hard road to toe, but so this judge said, okay, we'll give you one last chance. And where did we go from there?
Yeah, so he said he'll give you one last chance. And then initially I was trying to go to Berkwood, but my PO was like, no, we're not doing that again. No. She said RS Eden or nothing. That's what she told me. And RS Eden, it's a stricter program. It deals a lot with people in the justice involved sector, so they don't play no games over there.
And no play, no games.
No.
Okay.
No, so I get there, and actually it really worked out for my favor. They just opened up a family program for men and women, married women, men and women, and their children.
Nice.
Yep, and at the time, my kid's mother, she was not ready to find recovery, but I talked to my counselor, and I said, hey, what would be the odds of me getting into this step-down program as a single father with my kids? And they said, it's not going to be easy, and I can't make no promises, but we'll see how things go if you put in the effort. And yeah.
Wow, look at you, groundbreaking Darnell, trying something, because that's relatively unusual, isn't it, to have a man come in and want to do that single parent because their partner, for whatever reason, is just not on the same page. Look at you. Yeah. You're just amazing. You're even more amazing than I know you to be. Keep on telling us the story.
Yeah, so then that's when I put in all the effort I could into that. With that is my goal in mind is to get involved in that. They call it the Lorraine House, getting sent over there after the residential treatment. I ended up becoming the residential director there. That's like the lead client. And
wow.
Yeah, yep. And I really excelled, and I was able to find what my new identity was as a man in recovery, as a father. And that's actually where I came up with through therapy, talking about my abandonment issues, realized that, my mom left for a while. My dad was never there at that point. And I lived with my grandmother. That's exactly where my kids were. Exactly where my kids were. And it brought tears to my eyes just realizing that that's what I was doing to them. And, thankfully, I ended up being the first single father to be in that program. And I had my kids on the weekends where I was able to get a part-time job to work during the week while I kind of navigated that situation. The courts were really impressed.
As they should be.
As they should be. They were really impressed. I had all good remarks, and I was really excelling. And they said, okay, we're not gonna take away from this momentum. We're not gonna send you back to prison on the old charges, and we're not gonna send you to prison on the new charges. We're gonna give you a couple more departures, but we're gonna give you all those 80 hours of community service that you had, plus another 20 a year, and we're gonna let you get probation. We'll give you some more departures, and that was amazing. And it doesn't always happen for individuals, so it really felt good that I put in the work and I made it happen. Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing when the system can recognize when somebody does do well, and for you to be you are the first father who did this. You became the director of that program, of being the longest resident?
The residential director. So they have like an election type deal where you're the head client. Basically,
you had the time in?
I was running the whole residential.
How many people were there?
I don't remember offhand. I want to say about 30 or so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's a lot of people
that,
to kind of be directing over, to just sort of make sure. Did you have to kind of hold their feet to the fire on things? Is that part of it?
That was the big part of it. Enforcing the rules, helping to make the rules, any type of planning, administrative work, you can almost say, where, hey, what meetings are we going to go to? What are we going to do here? New client intakes, as far as orientating them, hey, bringing them around, introducing them to stuff, that type of thing. So
okay, wow, there you are, being the director, and now he's actually a director at Minnesota Recovery Connection, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
But how amazing. Yeah. See, I get filled in on people's stories when I do this radio show, because I know Darnell I'll say the first time I met you was 2 years ago, and you were still a volunteer. And here I'm seeing this, lovely human shows up at the office, and I'm thinking he's this swinging single guy, just living life, and found his way to Minnesota. I find out he's got 3 children, and he's got a wife, and he's got a van. You were just getting a van at that point. And I was like, you got 3 kids? What the heck is going on here? We get a picture in somebody's mind. And so that's where a lot of assumptions come in about, somebody comes walking into Minnesota Recovery Connection's door. And one of the things I try to help people in the class that I teach, and that is, don't make assumptions. Well, I made a bunch about you. Sorry. But then when you told me, I'm like, look at this incredible human. And now I get to find out even more about, we are so much more than what we look like on the surface, and maybe what we're going to let out initially. And so when we begin to unfold in front of people, and I think that's part of the recovery process, is that Darnell is literally unfolding in front of me right now. But when people are looking for their recovery, they're going to shed that onion skin, one layer at a time, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you encounter when you're dealing with people? They're not going to let the whole thing kind of just drop down in front of you, are they?
No, and it has to do really with letting out that trust and kind of just leaving little breadcrumbs and seeing what they can trust an individual with. Being in the recovery lifestyle, or even in addiction, you can't always trust everybody in your addiction. So just being really guarded and just letting a little bit out and seeing where they take it and seeing if they can be trusted with it. And if they can, give a little more and see where that goes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so now we have gotten to what time? Where are we in your story? So now we've gotten to R.S. Eden, we're Superman, where we've gotten time with your children on the weekends. You got a part-time job. Tell me more.
Yeah, so then I really found in Minnesota Recovery Connection my love of the work and my love of the mission, and I found my identity in recovery as a man at Minnesota Recovery Connection. And fast forward into that, I now got hired on last year, and I've been working there ever since.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so interesting because when we were thinking about giving Darnell new opportunities at Minnesota Recovery Connection, we're like, he's going to be a really good peer recovery specialist because he's just got that heart. Well, now I know where that heart comes from. You were really developing that when you were at R.S. Eden, working with these individuals who you were literally, all of those were parents, right, within that program that you were in?
The step down part of it. So it's so what it is they had residential programming, the men's and women, and then when you step down into their outpatient, but with lodging. The
Okay.
women would go to what was called Lorraine House, where it's
Right.
apartment buildings, and the men would go to BD.
Okay. So you're overseeing not just individuals with children, but just kind of the whole population in those two spaces.
Yeah, I was residential director in the men's program.
Okay.
In the residential, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and it's like the reason why I'm asking these questions, and that is because now I can see where he has begun to implement all of that, working with Minnesota Recovery Connection, because a lot of the times when people find their recovery, we just sort of look at where they are in that moment sometimes, but we have to go back in somebody's history and we have to see, what have you done? What have you accomplished? And one of the things that Darnell helped me with when we were doing the Walk for Recovery this past September was Caddy made her own sort of map for the Walk for Recovery, and I did okay because I was sort of rejamming stuff, and Darnell very politely came up to me and said, Caddy, so I've built houses. And I'm like, you what? You built houses? I'm really good with measuring. Can we try something new?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was this great moment where I'm like, so tell me more, Darnell. Tell me more about what we could do differently and what we could do better, right?
Yeah.
So we went out to the state capitol grounds and we did some measuring, and he used all of his mathematical wizardry, and we made a map and we did stuff. But I would have never known that unless we gave Darnell the opportunity to be another part of Minnesota Recovery Connection's leadership team. And what happens in recovery is that we just continue to unfold and unfold and unfold. And those dark times and those darker spots are part of our learning, but they're not who defines us.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the magic is. Now Darnell is defining himself as a man in recovery with a family, building a strong relationship with his family and with his recovery community. And I mean, it literally doesn't get any better than that.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And given that space to actually just thrive and find out where you're going to go with it and find out what excites you about life, and it's just taking off from there. It's amazing.
Beautiful.
I love seeing it.
Yeah. So when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about Darnell's current space that he holds at Minnesota Recovery Connection, and maybe just learn a little bit more some of these spaces in Darnell's story. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution.
And there's one thing that I've learned through this year of being alone. I can feel it in my bones more than anything I've ever known.
Welcome back. This is an amazing group that we had that played at our Walk for Recovery. I can't remember their names, but they're beautiful anyway. Right, Darnell?
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Oh, my gosh. It was so great. So when we left the story, we are hearing about amazing Darnell making his journey from a hard growing up to a man who lived a lifestyle, who kept him comfortable, gave him everything he needed at the time, the substances he wanted to use, the lifestyle, the things that he wanted to be successful. Then he's like, okay. And like I say, Johnny Law came knocking on several corners in Darnell's life. Just kept
Multiple times.
Yeah, kept coming around. And then we had this amazing time when a judge said, we're going to give you one last chance, Darnell. And he's like making it to this new place. He found his way to Minnesota Recovery Connection to volunteer. And so when did we bring you on board? I can't even remember. What did that look like? How did that all happen? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so originally I was going to be starting with the AmeriCorps, and it actually didn't work out for AmeriCorps, but it actually worked out because I was able to get hired on as an employee for MRC at October of last year, October 1st.
How time flies.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, that's right. So you were going to come on to Minnesota Recovery Connection through Recovery Corps, which is an AmeriCorps program, and there were some bumps in the road that we had to sort of figure out, what do we do next? And then we're like, ooh, I think he'd make a really great peer recovery specialist. And then? Yeah. And then what?
And then I got hired on, and it really worked out because at the capacity that I was able to work on as a CPRS, I wouldn't have been able to do everything that I was able to do as an AmeriCorps. So it really worked out, and I appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because when when things don't work out in one way, we could get really disappointed. You could go down a dark hole, right? I mean, have you gone down a couple dark holes in your life?
I've been there.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
And rather than that, what we saw in Darnell, because I remember now I had to kind of get refreshed in my brain. I remember Darnell was like, okay, I can't get through this one barrier that I've got, but what can we do about it? And what that was a justice involvement that, particular places and spaces don't let people have opportunities. But here at Minnesota Recovery Connection, we say, and we look at Darnell and we say, oh, let's welcome that justice involved background, because that's where the value is. Because you came on, you took the class from Minnesota Recovery Connection, took the RCA, the Recovery Coach Academy with me. Mm-hmm. And then we brought you on and you're working. And tell some of the listeners about how your lived experience has helped people journey into a better recovery because you have your background.
Yeah, so, and I always love to touch on this, how my story went full circle, whereas I touched base on it earlier saying, I got arrested and I went into Dakota County Jail. That's how my most recent recovery journey started. On Wednesdays, I go into Dakota County Jail and I meet with a group of individuals who are in programming there, and I help them with recovery resources and support, and just being able to tell my story. It's like I've been in that position before. I've been in this jail. I've been in those jumpers. I've seen the inside of this place before. So.
Right. Oh, isn't that amazing? You're right. So the last time you were there as a participant within that system, and now you get to come in because you get clearance to go in and help the individuals see what's next. What has that experience been like? Like, what have you been able to show them and kind of give them as tips and tricks?
Yeah, I've been able to show them that. It's definitely possible to make that change and to find that new identity and to figure out what do you want to do with your life. When you get out of here, what is your goals? What is your plan? Let's foster that. Let's figure out the next steps to that, and let's go from there. And I always love too when I run into somebody that I knew.
Ooh,
that is
tell me about
that is the favorite part of my job.
Tell me more. Tell me what that's like.
Because you get to see the person's face when they realize, like when they seen you at your worst, and then now they see where you're at now, and they say like, "What the heck happened?" Well, I'll tell you what happened, and it can happen for you too. It can happen for anybody. It's making that next right decision, the next decision to say, I want to make a change, and let that snowball, and just saying, hey, let's see where this journey takes me. Recovery is always a journey, and you'll never know where it's going to take you until you hop on and just ride it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the importance of peer recovery services, what Minnesota Recovery Connection does, because you get to literally walk alongside somebody and say, I have literally been in the same place as you. And I don't think there's anything more affirming. I know as a woman in recovery, when I can talk to a woman who struggled specifically with alcohol use, and they say, man, I just don't know how I'm going to make it through because it just makes me feel better to drink. I'm like, I get it. It's your friend. It's a place that you totally understand. And so now you get to look at some of these men and helping various individuals in different stages of their journey. So you've been working at Minnesota Recovery Connection since last October, and you have been, how long were you doing peer recovery services? And then we just sort of like kept building on your pie that you are now filling in.
So the pie started getting built pretty quick. I can't exactly remember when I started getting more kind of areas. I remember back in, I want to say December-ish, we were really getting involved with RDP, and it was like, okay, somebody needs to figure out RDP. So, recovery data platform.
Which is our documentation platform. Yeah. And Darnell, we found out, he's got a secret sauce with the computers.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, you have no idea how excited we were when we realized this. And this is part of that unfolding, folks. This is part of that unfolding. You don't know until you ask what somebody's able or capable of doing. And I don't know who it was that asked you, but they just said, okay, Darnell, what about this? And what did you say?
So I love computers.
Yay!
That's my jam. I'm really comfortable with, and if I don't know it, I'll figure it out. And that's kind of something that I've picked up in my addiction, where just dealing with electronics and that type of thing. So, I was really comfortable with that situation. And I really was happy to take on that role, and I excelled in that as well. Yeah.
And then what did we add to your pie that we keep building for you?
A little bit of website design, or get a little bit of a little supervision for some of our peers.
Yeah. As well as doing the work as a CPRS.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's so interesting because we bring people into our organization doing certified peer recovery work because we need to use that lived experience to help people find their recovery. And when we find a certified peer recovery specialist or a peer recovery specialist, and we sort of begin to watch them grow and take on or be given the opportunity to take on something, all of a sudden you just see this spark. And let me tell you, the spark in this man's eyes across the table from me, folks, is one of the greatest gifts that I've been able to have at Minnesota Recovery Connection. There's a lot of people that we work with, but I have seen Darnell go from a volunteer to now one of the directors of our organization. And so when did that happen, Darnell?
That happened a year to the date when I was hired.
Okay.
October 1st. They guys called me in the office and said we're going to make you director, and I said, awesome, let's do it. Let's do it.
Now, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
I mean, that just means I'm really what I'm learning to take more of an administrator role. Just learning the behind the scenes thing to a nonprofit organization. It's really just getting down to the nitty gritty, which is it's fun. It can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, but that's we talked about before. That's where you're going to grow, is when you find that uncomfortability, embrace it, find what you can bring to the table, and just grow in that space. And that's what I'm ready to do. Just learn, just become a sponge.
Yeah. Well, and you are a sponge. I think it was maybe about a week ago we were talking, and you made the comment. I said it was about this directorship, and I said, what does it feel like? What is it like? He's like, I'm really not quite sure yet. I'm just kind of sitting in it. I got to tell a couple people. I think that's what you said to me, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then Darnell I felt it was a vulnerable moment, and you just looked at me and you said, you guys, something to the respect, you guys gave me a chance that I didn't know that I was going to be able to have, because it's, with a complicated background, and we had faith in you, and we have trust in you, and we have hope in you, and we have dreams for you. Yeah. And when he said that to me, I was like, this is why we do our work.
Yeah.
Because we get to see somebody really sort of come into this beautiful flower. We got these seeds we've planted with you, and they've just been sprouting. And now, besides the fact that he's 6-something or another, how tall are you?
6'7".
He's a very tall man. He's not a flower anymore. He's growing into a magnificent tree, is what he is. Yeah. And it's really a delight to see, because I think, when you get to see people that you have journeyed along in your substance use disorder, or maybe in some of the justice-involved backgrounds, and they get to see you be this strong, incredible man with a family and sustaining yourself and doing as many right things as we can possibly do, because we've always got something we got to fix. It just says so much to our recovery community and to what recovery can look like in the big picture. Like when you get to be in a photograph for the Walk for Recovery, and this is Darnell Cox, Director Operations. What are you, Director?
Director of Operations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't remember what everybody's position is anymore. It just says, look at this human, because this is what recovery looks like, and this is what we walk around talking about all the time. So tell us another story that might just entertain us about your life. Tell us about your kids and your family. What does that look like?
It can be a little hectic sometimes, but I love them to death, and it's so rewarding to be there. So little background, me and Bree, my kid's mother, we're back together now. She found recovery. So she's a little over a year and a half in recovery. She's involved in our PAC, our Peer Advisory Council. Shout out to Bree.
Woo, woo, Bree!
Yeah, she's amazing, and I really like that we're both in recovery now, but we keep our recovery kind of separate, just in the aspect of her recovery is hers and mine is mine, and that's a healthy way to kind of do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you got 3 little people.
We got 3 little people. Yep.
What are their ages?
9. My daughter's birthday was actually yesterday, so she just turned 4.
Oh.
Yep. And then my son will be 6 on the 16th.
Wow. Yeah. He's got a busy household, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Busy household.
Yeah. No, it can get a little wild. So we ended up getting a house now in Oakdale. So we moved in last November. Wow. And we've been there, and it's just been flourishing. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Bree, besides working with the PAC at Minnesota Recovery Connection, she's volunteered for a very long time and took the class to become a peer recovery specialist. And I know that's a dream that she has. We had to kind of get through these little people phases, I think, for a little while before that dream can unfold. But when Bree came in, and you two were kind of like these two separate entities. It wasn't like, you were. I didn't know the true connection, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, these two people belong together. Oh, that's what. But Bree does have her own recovery. I mean, she really does. Yeah. When she came in and she does her stuff, it's like she doesn't say a lot about Darnell and what Darnell's doing. It's like, hey, what can I do for the Peer Advisory Council, Caddy? What can I do for the events that are going on? When she was volunteering, what can I do? Where can I go? And when you see somebody again, blossom like that, and she comes into her own. And I really like the fact that you two have sort of your own recovery journeys. Yeah. That's super important. So what did you do last night after you left work? Because I want to tell you.
Yeah. So I actually went out to Frogtown Recovery Cafe to go play basketball at the men's basketball night. So it was fun. A great group of guys there. We actually take part in the men's peer circle. Beforehand, so it's a support group beforehand, and then we play ball for a couple hours after.
Sweet. How many guys?
About 20-ish. About 20.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, between 15 and 20, because I know we at least got enough to run a full game and people waiting on the side. So,
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, and this is what recovery is. Recovery Cafe Frogtown is another organization, not exactly like Minnesota Recovery Connection, but we sort of partner together in a multitude of different ways. But it's another way for the community to get together, and so you can play ball with a bunch of guys, and you can talk about recovery or maybe just what's going on.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of different activities. If basketball is not your jam, they have a calendar. You can look on our website. We have it up there as well on our events calendar.
Nice.
From stuff from I know they have I want to say knitting or stuff like that, or they have
support groups. They serve food on a regular basis.
Food,
yeah, so this is
a bunch of activities.
Yeah, they've got it. So Recovery Cafe Frogtown is in essentially the east side of St. Paul. West side?
Frogtown area.
Frogtown area. Frogtown. Okay, wherever it's Frogtown. Yeah, I'll just figure out
Recovery Cafe Frogtown.
Yeah, can't remember exactly where it is. It's over there in St. Paul. But this is what we try to do. Is I remember the beginnings of Frogtown and them sort of kind of pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and becoming this organization. And what they are is they're just community-based and community-led and are doing the right thing. So we're about ready to close out this conversation. Darnell, what was this like for you?
It was fun. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Just having that space to be able to communicate and talk to Caddy and just chat it up and go from there. I had a great time. Thank
you. Well, for me, it's always wonderful because I get to see a little bit more of Darnell and also see how incredibly powerful our recovery community is and how it really spreads all over. So thank you all for listening. Be sure to donate if you can, become one of our donors, sponsors, and listen to Minnesota Recovery Connections, Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution. Catch us at minnesotarecovery.org. Thank you.
Bye.